तो बाबू के हुआ में सब कुछ भर गया तो आ होते हैं
All right, so let us start today's proceeding. And today, in this session, we will be talking about report writing. And report writing, as you know, is a very important activity which every business executive or a manager has to undertake sometime in their careers. And in fact, it's a very regular activity. And so, in terms of the importance it has in overall business communication, that is very high. So, there will be different kinds of reports, and most of the time, some part of the day in a business manager's or a business executive's schedule has to be devoted to some kind of report writing or some kind of reporting. Okay, so it is, and the format and the methodology of this is also changing. Formats are changing, formats are becoming shorter and more crisp, and sometimes there are, however, there will always be importance of the good old report structure which has been there. And today we are going to talk about that structure and how it is very relevant for you, especially one activity which you are going to do immediately after your summer internships, or now it will be more, I think, winter internships. So whatever kind of internships you end up doing, so at the end of that, you will have to submit two reports. One report to your organization and the other report to the department for evaluation. So that is going to be a major activity, and a lot of marks will depend on your grades, will depend on that activity. In fact, a lot of your placement and your future will depend on that activity. Some people who do a fabulous job, who do a good job in that part. So obviously, first is doing a good job in the internship and then presenting it properly in the form of a report and the summer internship presentation. Obviously, is a start of a good career. I have seen some of my seniors telling us stories about how they, when eventually they went for final placements, and one of the things which they have to showcase in the final placement interviews is the summer internship. But how did they went about? What is that? That is the only practical experience for majority of the people, of practical experience of industry exposure. So they presented, okay, we did summer internship in so and so organization, and this is what we actually did, and this is our report. And they ended up presenting or ended up showing their reports in their final interviews also, and that basically made the difference. So that is the importance of a good report, and obviously a good report will always be appreciated. Will always be appreciated. So let us now try to understand what is some of the stuff of good report writing. So there can be a lot of things in this. So today we are going to talk about what is a report today, and then what are the factors that shape writing reports, and then different types of reports and effective steps. What are the ways in which, what are the steps if you follow, then you can write an effective report, and structure and formatting. Obviously, these are some very basic things. However, when we see reports, we find that many a times these things, style, formatting guidelines are not followed, and in fact, it's a tragedy which happens with communication, that people forget about these things. And what are some of the qualities of good report writing? Now, let me ask this question to you. What do you think is a report? What is a report? Yes, can anyone just unmute themselves and just answer this? What do you consider a report? Yes.
So information about something that has happened in the recent past.
Yes.
Sir, a written document about some research or about anything is considered as a report.
True.
A document informing people what we have encountered.
Some form of information.
Conclusion and finding for an activity.
What findings?
Sir, written representation of whatever data or information we have collected or someone else have collected and preparing that
Very
in
good.
formal manner.
Yes. In fact, if we look at the definition, it is basically an kind of an investigation of the data. Whatever that kind of data may be, it may be an observation data. It may be some facts you have collected on ground, some other kind of information you have collected on ground, and any kind of that data. When you investigate the data and present the analysis in an objective manner, that is basically a report. Okay, so it's basically report can be on any matter in which definite information is required. It can be, say, on any incident, like some of you told, or it can be on some decision agenda where someone has to take a decision on that, or it can be on, say, as simple as a weekly progress or a month or a daily progress. It can be an information required on the matters of how things have proceeded so far. So any kind of definite information on any topic can be presented in the form of a report. However, a report will have a quality that it will be more of a investigation of the data. Now, there can be different types and varieties of investigation, but it has to be a kind of investigation that is. It can be as simple as, "Mom, I'm home." That's also a report that which you are giving it to your mom when you are home. Okay, so that's the information which is required. Or it can be as big as government's annual report. Now, if you follow that every year government publishes a lot of reports, and when the budget is presented, and what is budget? Budget is also a form of report. Okay, and when a budget is presented, there is an economic survey, and then there are other reports and how the expenditure has taken place and all these things. They are very, very thick reports. So they can be, and it requires tons of preparation. It requires so many people working on so many aspects. So that's government's annual report. So a report can be as short as "Mom, I'm home," and as long and as large as government's annual report. Okay, and in somewhere in between lies our kind of reports, which we have to prepare as students of business communication, as future managers, and as executives in organizations. There are various factors basically which shape the kind of business report which we are about to prepare. Now, first is the target audience. Now, what do we mean by target audience and how it is going to shape the report? Can anyone just explain it to us?
That is the sample from which we have to collect the data.
Okay.
Because
Actually, target audience are the people for whom the report is getting prepared, who are supposed to read the report. So how it is going to shape the report?
So we will write the report according to them only.
There,
sir, from target audience, we have to collect the data, or we have to submit the report to them. We have to
submit a report to them. Target audience is basically what you're confusing between target respondents and target audience. Okay.
Yes.
Target respondents are people from whom you collect the or sample, basically are the people from whom you collect the data. Okay. Audience is comprises of people who are supposed to read that report, or for whom the report has some value. and or they have commissioned the report. They want to seek that information. So they are the target audience. Now, someone very rightly said that we have to prepare a report from their perspectives. Okay. Now, what is their perspective and how it will affect the report? Say, for example, the background information. What is the prior information they have about this topic? Now, if, say, for example, you are preparing a report as a team member for your team leader about something, about a technology which you people are trying to implement. Now, there you already know that my team leader already has this much information, already knows basics of technology. So I don't have to educate the person on the very basics of technology. I only have to talk about that, okay, what this new technology is about, what new things we have to do for it, and so on and so forth. Okay, so the moment you know that the person who is a target audience has some prior information, and that prior information will dictate what you put in that report. Similarly, if, say, for example, the same report on the new technology you are to present to a client. Now here, you know that your client may not be knowing the basics of this technology. So now you have to educate the client about this technology. So the target audience, an analysis of the target audience will shape what kind of business report you are writing and what you will write in that report. Okay, how much time will you devote to different things in that? That is the first thing. So target audience is the first thing. Then there is the purpose of the report. Now, what do we mean by purpose and how purpose of the report can shape the business report? What can be different purposes for writing a report?
Every purpose requires a report. Everything requires a report.
Can you give an example of a purpose of writing a report? Why is report required?
Sir, a company publishes annual report to tell the shareholders about the profit and loss of the company and what are their future projects and all these things.
All right, perfect. So that is the purpose, is to inform the shareholders about the past performance of the company. Okay, so that will basically change the nature of the report completely. Okay, because the target audience are the shareholders, and so the kind of information you put in that report will change. You need graphs. You need to show them the future, what is the productivity or the profitability of the company, how the company has exploited the opportunities, and what are the future opportunities and all these things. So that will you will put in that report. Similarly, if it's a proposal, say for example, if it's a proposal for installing a new plant, then the purpose of the report basically dictates what is the content of the report. Or say for example, if the company wants to say IB students, you want to expand in some other country, you want to expand the company wants to basically start doing international business, and they want to go into the international business. So what they do, they scout and they study the countries in which they can establish their operations. So for that, it's called environmental scanning, and then you shortlist the countries and all these things based on various factors like legal factors and another kind of what kind of advantages, disadvantages each of the economy has, and all these things. So here you are basically making a recommendation. You are investigating that how these 5 countries, how you compare these 5 countries, and then you make a recommendation. So there the information in the report will be different. So the purpose of the report actually shape what kind of business report you are writing. And the third factor is basically the relationship between the reporter and the reportee. That also will shape the content of the report, the style of the report, everything. Now here what we mean by the relationship between the reporter and the reportee. Say, for example, you are writing as an employee to your employer. So the nature of this relationship is different. Vis-a-vis, if say, for example, you are writing as a consultant to a client. If you are a consultant in the company and you are writing a report for a client which is outside your company, that relationship is different. So your report has to be very, very formal. It has to have all the styling elements and everything. It has to have company branding and all these things which are supposed to be there. So that relationship will govern what kind of report you are about to write. Okay, whether it is a formal report or say, for example, if you are asked to basically study some new phenomena and by the end of the day you are to present the findings of something, then it is not a formal report. It is an informal report, and you are going to present, say, for example, in front of your team or in front of your boss, immediate boss or your supervisor. So that relationship between your boss and yourself will basically determine what kind of report you make ultimately. Then also the availability of resources, including time. For example, even a 2,000-word report can be a 200-word report can be very long, and even a 20,000-word report can be small, can be considered inappropriate. It again depends on the resources and including the time which is there. Say, for example, you are writing again the like annual report of a company. So the time required, the resources required for writing that report will basically determine what the quality of that report is. If you are given, say, for example, a week to write an annual report of the company, the chances are the job will not be very, very good, and the content of the report will not be. You can say that it will fall short many a times. So you require more time and more resources for writing an annual report. But if, say, for example, if it's a decisional kind of a report where you have to analyze certain things very quickly and then give, and if at that time the time requirement is time at your disposal very less, so then the content of the report will be according to that kind of resources you have at that moment. So that is also going to shape the kind of business report you are about to write. Okay. Now there can be so many types of business reports. We can have different, like you can say it's a weekly production report, or an annual report, or other kind of report, or a press release. It's also kind of a report. Whatever different kinds of reports. So you can have that kind of classification. Now here what we are trying to do, we are trying to club that into two basic kinds. Okay. The first is the kind of a status report. Status reports basically tells us the status of things. That what do we need to know about certain things which are present. It may be about certain people, it may be about an event like a press release. It's kind of a report where people are informed about what has happened, an event has happened and how it has happened and how things are on the ground. Say, for example, you are supposed to present the situation which is going on between the trade unions and your company managers and your factory managers, and you are to present a report that is a status report. Then the other kind of report is basically a decision report. Okay. And what is the decision report? In which you are supposed to present a kind of an analysis, or basically you give your options to the decision maker, where a decision maker can select one of the options. Okay. So that is basically one of the major difference between the types of reports. The status report, here we only are supposed to know what has happened and what is the status on the ground. On the other side, we are to prepare decision reports in which a certain set of decision has to be taken. Now, let me ask this question to you. when you go out on your summer internship, okay, and when you return back, so what kind of report would you submit and why?
Yes, sir. Please repeat the question.
So when you are supposed to write a report after your summer internship, what kind of report that will be?
The status.
Status report. How?
So it's a kind of event.
Okay.
It's a decision.
And it's our need, sir. Satisfy.
So it will be an evaluation report, basically, which evaluates what work or what kind of work we did and how we have done it.
Now, there are both kind of answers have come up. Okay, status report as well as decision report. Some people are saying it will be a status report, and some people are saying it will be a decision report. Now, let us go back to the previous slides when we talk about the target audience. Now,
Not decision, it's evaluation.
it's evaluation. Okay, what kind of evaluation?
It's an evaluation of work which we have done during the internship or during the things we have done.
Yes.
Evaluation of that.
So once you are presenting a report, because the target audience, because like I initially mentioned, that there will be two versions of that report which you are going to write. One version you will present in the company, and the other you will basically present in the department. So the nature of both of them has to be slightly different. When you are presenting in a company has given you a task and they want you to basically do some work. So at that time, maybe based on your I don't know what will be the exact nature of your summer internship, but usually what happens, let's say for example, a company gives you a marketing research kind of a task, that go out and survey our target customers and look at whether how we are faring in comparison to our competitors, how our products are doing. So like, for example, that can be one of the reports. Or you do an HR kind of and study where you survey employees of the organization on certain dimensions of say productivity or satisfaction or engagement or some other aspect. Okay. So what is that kind of report? That will be a decision report, where you are going to make an analysis of the data. You will collect the data, you will do an analysis, and then you are going to present your findings. And whenever it's a decision report, it's not just the findings at which you stop. Based on that findings, what can be the action agenda? What can be the decision, maybe call it recommendations? What are your recommendations based on that analysis? That is a decision report. And so you will write a decision report for the organization. However, when you are presenting in the department, that part will become basically, now the department will not take any decision on your findings, but obviously the department needs to know that what kind of recommendations you give, whether they were relevant recommendations or not. How was your analysis? How did you go about doing that stuff? What kind of methodology you followed? Whether what you studied in RMM paper, did you follow that? What you studied in business communication report writing, did you follow that? Did you follow all the good practices which have been, which we have discussed? So department is interested in knowing how, first thing is how you spent those 2 months. What exactly did you do? Was it worth doing? And sometimes what happens, many a times when I see those kind of reports, I'm not able to make a proper judgment about how the person actually spent the time. because that part is many times missing. People do not mention about how they went about utilizing their time. Say, for example, you have 60 days. So what you did in the first 10 days, what you did in the next 20 days, and so on and so forth. So I'm not able to make out, because it's usually the same report people, when they submit it in their organization, they submit here in the department. They do not change the report. So what I see is basically a survey which a student has done, and I know that how much time I can estimate based on the questionnaire and the analysis, how much time the person would have devoted. So say, for example, a person diligently spent the 60 days in an organization, but the report only mentions the work which was done in the last 10 days. Now that is not a good status report. So what I will do, I will only know the status of your last 10 days. And I will evaluate you on the last 10 days. Okay? No matter how good the work you have done in the first 30 days. So you have to basically, your intention should be, when you are writing the report for the department, it should be a status report where you satisfy the need to know of the teachers, of the panelists, that what exactly you did, how you did it, and what was the outcome of that, and how you spent your time. So that is basically the difference between these two types of reports, and this is what both of the types of report you are supposed to write at the end of your summer internships or any kind of internships.
Sir,
Is it? Yes.
but certain organization asked to do repetitive type of task. So in such circumstances, how to show the department that I have done some useful work?
Yeah, that is not a problem. That is not a problem. Repetitive tasks, it's completely fine. So you show it to the department that I learned these tasks. I was given this assignment in the first 10 days. Say, for example, I was given this assignment. My suggestion will always be to write the report in the phases form. Like in the first phase, you did this part. In the second phase, you did this part, and this was the third phase. And these were some of the regular activities which you were supposed to do. You were supposed to assist the person in certain things, and in that as an intern, you were assisting, say, for example, a marketing manager. So you did these kind of, say, data collections, this kind of daily reports, this kind of. So that's how you mention it. So the more nitty-gritties you basically, that's why we always say that there is a logbook has to be prepared, and you are supposed to basically submit that logbook at the end of it. So if you honestly prepare a logbook that each day what you did, so you will have enough and more material to basically to structure it and show it properly. Yes, anyone? Anyone else? So I hope this brings some clarity about what you are supposed to do at the end of your internships. All right, so let us move ahead. Now, for writing any kind of report, it involves certain activities which we are supposed to do. And we can think it in terms of 4 activities. First is thinking. Then the other is writing. Then the fourth is discussing, and the fourth is revising. Now, till now, what we are trying to basically, in the first phase of this class, we are trying to basically make you think. Okay, that thinking activity is very important, because many a times you start writing the report without thinking for whom you are writing the report, what's the kind of relationship you have, what are the resources you have at your disposal, and what is the target audience and all. So thinking is very important. So the first stage is thinking, and then you start writing. Okay, and you don't stop at writing. When we talk about writing, we'll talk about some things more, but you don't stop at writing. Then you move on to discussing. A good report is always well discussed. If you have time and resources, mostly for your internship reports, you will have time. Okay, unless you are not you have a very bad time management, or you do a very bad job in that management of your time. Mostly there's enough and more time which is given to you for writing reports. So you are supposed to discuss it. First, the first level of discussion should be with your with your supervisor or whosoever in the company guided you. And the second level of discussion may be with your peers, with your classmates, or with some other interns in the same organization, that how they are doing it and what is the difference in all these things. So you discuss. And then it can also be the discussion with your teachers. You can show them the report and then can have some feedback and discuss it, that, okay, what kind of, how should I present it, and all these kind of confusions which are there. And then you revise that report. Revise that report on the basis of the recommendations which people gave, the suggestions which people gave, and you continuously revise that report, because, you know, once you have written a piece of information, usually when you go back after some time, there is a lot of things which you can, there are a lot of things which you can do to improve that version. Even on your own, if you have written it yourself, it will always be better if you revise it, say, take a break and then revise it. You will find that there were things which you missed in the first reading or in the first version. So drafts after drafts, what we call, are required for writing a good report. Okay. So thinking, writing, discussing, and revising. So do not just focus on writing. Think also, and discuss also, and revise also when you're writing a report. So the 5 steps of all of this can be, you can very practically divide it into these 5 steps. Okay. Collect your ideas, what you have to put in that report, write a first draft, revise the draft, proofread again and again, and then publish. Okay. Proofreading is one of the major things. In fact, when we talk about, sometimes there is also, it's called printer's devil. Okay. Printer's devil. So ultimately, when say you compile everything and you go to a printer and you give that version to the printer will do something or the other which will be embarrassing for you. Okay, so beware of that. So it's called printer's devil. So that is why it is required that once you get the first version printed, then again proofread it. So many times it happens with thesis and dissertations. These are important documents, and these are documents which remain there for a very long time. A thesis will always be with me. My PhD thesis will always be with me. It is kind of a book which I will showcase whenever for my entire life. Okay. Similarly, your dissertations. So you write dissertation only once in your masters. Okay, and then you can show it to even you. Sometimes I had a chance of actually reading a dissertation of my father. So when he was in as engineering final year, he wrote a dissertation, and I got a chance of reading that dissertation. So that is, and if it's not, and at that time, and this thing, it was handwritten. The dissertation was handwritten. So you can imagine the kind of effort that used to take place in that. So proofreading is very important. So, and today, don't take technology very lightly, because sometimes you miss many things, and it may end up the versions Word 2007 and you are using, and that printer using 2010 and all these things, that things can get messed up. Okay, so please beware of that. So follow these 5 steps. Now let us talk about the age-old structure of a business report. Okay, now I will just ask you to just pause here a bit and look at this. Okay, this slide. Though it is again, these are not bullet points. This is a structure of a business report, and it was important to show it to you. So just have a look at all of these things. And now let us discuss each one of them in a bit. Like let us elaborate on each one of them. So any kind of report, any kind of, I would say, except for, say, a daily report or a weekly report. Sometimes weekly reports also have this kind of structure, but daily reports have different kinds of structures. Okay, so nowadays what is happening, there are templates. Organizations have prepared templates for daily reporting and weekly reportings. So they don't follow this kind of structure, and it is a pre-made template which is there available in the organizations where you, and usually we're also using a lot of project management tools and apps. Okay, so nowadays for business reporting, we have an app called Trello, which is very common. Trello for creating cards, business cards, and it is kind of a to-do list you prepare and then you chalk out and all these things and you mark done on that report. So it is a collaborative tool which people are using, Trello. And most of you, when you go in the organizations, you might end up using Trello or Asana, or they can be this Slack, which is very popular in business world today. And in less formal organizations, you may also have in some more organizations, MS Project, Microsoft Project. Okay, so it itself has inbuilt, you can say, messaging apps inside it. So in that, there can be different kind of formats which people might be following, your teams might be following. So that is a slightly different issue. But here what we are talking about is a formal structure of a business report. Okay. And usually if you are given a task of writing a report, you should follow this structure. Okay. With the title page, letter of transmittal, which is also called covering letter, then table of contents, executive summary, and so on and so forth. Let us look at each one of them in slight detail. So one is the title page. Now, what does the title page constitute? Title page constitutes the title of the report. Okay. Name of the reportee, name of the writer, okay, and the date of submission. Who has asked for that report? Okay. Who has written that report? And the date of submission. These are some of the things which are, many times it has happened that the name of the company is also there, or the name of the organization. Like when you are preparing a standard title page for your dissertation or your summer internships, there will be a university logo and on that, and you will have to write the department and all these things. So these are the things which are there. But one thing which many a times people do not pay enough attention to is the title of the report. Okay. And you should devote some time when you are framing the title of the report. Because see, most of you will be doing summer internships on a similar kind of topics. Okay. Now your job will be to look at what are the unique things which you have done and whether your title of that report is conveying that activity or that main thing which you have done. Okay. So you have to discuss this title of the report with your supervisor a couple of times, okay? And do not just do it in a hurry. In fact, you should devote some time. You should have multiple topics, multiple titles, write multiple titles, and then discuss those titles, and then figure out one important title, one appropriate title for your report. So sometimes when you are writing for clients and for organizations, title makes a lot of difference. Okay, and your report maybe can become famous by the title itself. So I remember, I think some time back there was a famous report. You know, these consultancies like Boston Consulting Group, Deloitte, and KPMG and Ernst & Young. They are very they write regular reports, and they're one of the business model basically which they do. They write very comprehensive reports about the status of the economy, about certain industry and all, and they sell these reports. Okay, so one of the report I remember was titled some 15 years back, "The Dhoni Effect." Okay, so basically Ernst & Young, E&Y, wrote a report about the resurgence of the youth of India from the tier 2, tier 3 countries. So this report was basically about the demographic dividend, how India's demography was changing and what are the aspirations of people and all these things. So they titled that report "The Dhoni Effect." And that report became a rage at that time, and everyone was talking about that report. And now with the title, everyone was curious what was there in the report. Okay. So how like the rise of Dhoni from a small city like Ranchi, and then what kind of effect it was having on on the aspirations of the youth of tier 2 and tier 3 cities. That was the report. So just digressing a bit, the title of the report is very, very critical and we should pay some time. Then letter of transmittal. Formally presenting the report to the reportee, because who has asked for that report? So you are supposed to formally present that report to that person. Okay. So whenever you say, for example, whenever you see a government report, you will find that there is a letter of transmittal in front. Always there's a covering letter. It may not. The title may not be letter of transmittal, but it will be something else, maybe a covering letter or something, where the reportee basically, the reporter basically writes that this report was commissioned by so and so. So we are formally presenting it. Say if the government of India has asked you to write a report, or a civil servant to write a report, a civil servant will present it formally to the government of India. Okay. So this report with reference to so and so letter, which was dated so and so, and we were assigned to write this report on this topic and all that, and we did this in this time frame and so and so, and so we are finally presenting it to the reportee, to the government of India. So that is what you have to do, and in your case, it will be required. So the first transmittal of letter of transmittal will be when you are writing it for your organization. So because organization has commissioned that report, so you will write for that organization. The other letter of transmittal will be for the department, because department requires you to submit a summer internship or an internship report. So letter of transmittal will be there. Then the table of contents. Now the table of content is actually a very, very tricky and sometimes ignored part of that report. Now, I'm warning all of you here, and I'm cautioning all of you here that teachers here, when you submit your summer internship reports, they will always very keenly look at the table of contents first. Okay, they will very keenly look at table of contents, and many a times I have seen that, because what happens is, usually the table of content is prepared at the very end. Because what happens, if you prepare the table of content, you can say preparing the table of content, you can prepare it, but it is completed at the very end, because the page numbers keeps on changing and all these things keep on changing once you are editing the report. So once it is done absolute you have the final draft ready with you, then you have to go back to your table of contents. And then you have to check whether the order is right or wrong, whether have you changed the order in between, just check it, whether it is logical, whether the indentation is proper, okay? So whether the page numbers are appropriate, whether the table which you have made or the style you have followed is appropriate or not, okay? So all these things, the sections and the subsections, very important. Have you mentioned the subsections or that or not? So all of these things are very important in the table of content. And table of content, can give the very first impression. When your report is given, title page, immediately table of contents. Okay. And if the table of contents are not done properly, then it gives an impression that the person has done a bad job overall. Okay. Then quickly comes to the executive summary. Here, executive summary is talking about you present your report in one page. Okay, a summary of that report. And every good report, usually long reports have an executive summary, where you present a little bit of background, what was the problem about, or why you were commissioned to write this report, the methodology you followed, and the findings and recommendations. Usually it has these things, okay? The background, the methodology, and the findings and the recommendations. Or if it is a status report, you don't have the, say, findings and recommendations, but you have something else, the current status or what exactly you did and the flow, the logic of how you did it. Okay. So executive summary is one bit. And again, executive summary is again kind of a sneak peek into your report. So many a times which happens when people have less time, they will only read your executive summary. And usually executive summaries are also written at the very end. Once you have completed the report, and you don't copy and paste some sections of that report in executive summary. Do not ever do that. It's a very bad strategy. Very bad strategy. Okay. What you should do is that once you have written the report, read the report, take out the main points, and then reframe it to form an executive summary properly in a logical order. That's the strategy you should follow. Then finally, there is an introduction, usually the brief background and all. And again, introduction usually is a chapter which is there. Usually it is a chapter. Okay. Then you can have other chapters also, like conceptual model can be a different chapter, or industry analysis can be a different chapter, and all these things. So I'm not going into the depth. Okay. Briefly, you talk about the research methodology. Then, after the introduction, what was the objective of that report? What were the steps which were followed? Again, the research methodology here does not mean that you have to, in every report, you have to follow a certain methodology which you are taught in RMM. Okay, it's not that. Methodology is basically how you went about doing things. Okay, what was the objective which was set for you, and what were the steps you followed? Then comes the main body. In the main body, you present and interpret the data which you have there. Maybe you have you present the graphs, or say, for example, this is how you correct the data. Then you present your analysis, interpretation. Okay, that how you analyze that data and what was your interpretation of that data. And finally, in the conclusion, you present your inferences, which you draw out of that interpretation. The summary of the findings. On the basis of that, you give suggestions and recommendations. Now, again, I want to point here one very important thing. That you should never ever give recommendations which do not flow from your analysis. What I have seen in many times, and I have repeated this, I think, in every internship presentation, after every internship, giving the feedback, I have always, in majority of the cases, what we find is that you interpret something else and you recommend something else. Okay, your interpretations are so general that a company should have more, should invest in employee satisfaction. Your company should, the company should go about and satisfy the customers more and all. It is so generalistic that it does not, because that is not what your analysis is about. So always write your suggestions or recommendation based on what you have done. Because you are an MBA, you are supposed to give concrete suggestions. You are not supposed to give general suggestions like a layman. The person who sees the organization from the outside can also tell, okay, you should invest more in your customer, in the satisfaction of your customers. Invest more in for your employees. That's all. That is not what your job is. That your job is to get into details and get very, very specific suggestions. Do this exactly. This is flowing from my analysis.
So, what do you want to convey with the concrete suggestions?
Yes.
So please tell, what are you trying to convey with the concrete suggestions? What kind of concrete suggestions are?
Concrete suggestions. Once, say, for example, you have done an analysis. You have done a data, you have done a survey of, say, for example, customers. And based on that, you find something interesting and you find something on your analysis. And based on that findings, you recommend things like that. Now, say, I remember my survey, which I did a lot of things in my summer internship. When I did a survey that at that time, because this internet was there, but it was not that common for searching things. So people were calling a lot. People were calling to inquire about certain products and certain things. So my suggestion will be that because I surveyed so many people and they all used the medium which they were using is calling the company. So I gave a suggestion that we should list our company on Just Dial. Just Dial at that time was new. Okay. And ultimately it was adopted by my supervisor, and that's a different story. Okay. But my suggestion was that because everyone is, now it has a logic, because everyone is calling. So that means that people primarily are using calling. So, and Just Dial was becoming popular at that time. Everywhere there was boards of hoardings of Just Dial, 8888. The number was there that whenever you want to know about. So we said that we should promote our brand on Just Dial so that when people start, because people are primarily using mobile phones, calling for reaching us. So they should be, we should be accessible to them. That's what the recommendation. That is a concrete recommendation. Okay, so once you do that, you will get into that. But do not give general recommendations. One or two, okay, it's fine, but not too many general recommendations. Okay, concrete recommendations. Then you have appendix, where you have, say, additional material, whatever the copy of the questionnaires or any kind of, say, you did a lot of statistical analysis, but some of the statistical analysis is not required to be presented in the chapter. So you present it in the in your as an appendix. So very many times in thesis, in PhD thesis, we do that. In the government reports also, you will find annual reports. You will find that there are many charts and there are a lot of analysis. So they put it in the appendix. So additional material in the appendix that comes. And finally, referencing and bibliography. You know, whatever data you are taking from anywhere, cite the resource. And usually what happens for writing the bibliography and the references, there are set rules and there are different styles. Style guides are there for writing it. So usually we follow APA, American Psychology Association Guide. So right now, I think there is 6th or 7th edition, which is there for APA style of referencing. Then there is a Chicago style of referencing. There is Harvard style of referencing. Okay. So there are different kinds of styles of referencing. So you have to, so in that style, they will tell you how to cite a website, say, for example, what to include in the citation, the year of the citation. If you are taking a research paper and citing it, so where do you put the journal name or the journal edition? Okay, the name of the authors. If there are 5 authors, how do you write the name of the 5 authors? Okay, so all of these things are part of that referencing style and that. So I'll stop here because I think there are some things which we are going to cover in afterwards. But I think the time is also we have already reached the end of. And so now let me just ask this question: that if you have any doubt related to any of these things, till now we have studied the structure of the report. Now we all know that this is a basic structure. We start with the title page, then we have letter of transmittal, and then you have the table of contents, and then you have the introduction and the main body, this methodology, the main body, the conclusion, appendix, and the references. Okay, so please follow this style whenever you are writing it, and there can be some variations to it, but not many variations. So related to this, any doubt, any query, anything anyone have?
We can have acknowledgements also. No?
Yes.
In the list.
So acknowledgements basically they are put in the front part of the before the table of content. So any doubt, any query related to this? All right, so let us call it a day. So tomorrow we are starting the presentations, and tomorrow we'll all join in 2 separate groups. Okay, and we'll let you know, but group 1 will maybe join through Google Meet link. We will send the Google Meet link, and Zoom link. You already have this Zoom link, and the other half from MBA, IB, IBF, and MHA will join in the second through Zoom link. Okay, at the same designated time.
Google Meet link has also been created by Kanishka earlier.
Yes.
So the same link can be used and we can request Kanishka to coordinate.
But I think so Kanishka will be in group 2.
Okay.
So someone else can do that. I think from group 1, we will have a coordinator.
Okay.
So please make sure that you are present on your designated.
Lalit is in which group? Group 1 or group 2?
Lalit.
If Lalit is there, we can request him.
So he's in MBA, so obviously he's in group 1.
Yes.
Okay, so please make sure that you check the technology part. And every presenter has to open their mic, open their camera. Sorry. Okay, so there will be deduction of marks if you are not able to do that. So make sure that you are at the right place with the right internet connection and everything, and hope to see a good performance from all of you. And we'll let you know. We present the team and how you coordinate with your team members. So make sure that you are there. All right. So let us call it a day, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.